Good morning, Bears. How's everybody doing today? Let's say that again. How's everybody doing today? Good morning to everybody. You know, we don't always get off to very clear, concise starts. Sometimes we struggle a little bit, but we make it work one way or another. We get there. It's good to see everybody in here. I'm sorry for the come in a little bit later than usual. It was necessary. Had plenty of good life to be doing. Taking care of family and all that good stuff. Mostly dogs. Mostly a lot of dog taking care of. Because they need it. These dogs would never survive in the wild. Seriously. It's just, it's a little depressing that they're as codependent as they are, but no, it's not codependent, just dependent. We're not, well, okay, all right. We might be a little dependent on them too. I think there's an exchange going on there. It's always wonderful to be able to snuggle up with a puppy. I'm a big fan of that. Who's in here this morning? We got like 11 folks up in here. We got Sovereign, we got Robot, Kodiak, Kick Ya. Oh, you're good, Kick Ya. Glad to see you though. She says she's listening but can't chat. Let's see here. Fellow DC, Steve Pinder. You got some great folks. Such great whites. Oh, man. Let's see here. Mofo Nature Bear. What's happening? Did I say Sergeant Peterson? Because if I didn't, I'm saying it now. Just looking back here. Last Moomin's here. A lot of Mr. Nicktown. Hey, so we got some folks up in here. That's good stuff. Yeah. Good job, Kodiak. You got him. Good to see you too, Moomin. Oh, man. I haven't forgot about you, by the way. It's just been an insane last couple weeks. So, as you may notice, you don't see the drum set up. It's not even set up over here. Like, it's been in the car back and forth doing stuff. So, yeah, we're gonna have to get you. You know what I may do is just fly your track here into GarageBand doing electronic stuff just to see how it sounds. I might work with that. Calm down. I'm about to drink my coffee. Out of the ugliest mug you've ever seen. So good. Man. That mug's so ugly, it might need to hide in an attic. Good night. But, I just got demonetized. I'm not monetized in the first place. Oh, my goodness. Let's see now. So, the dogs. We've got, Chunk, who needed a bath badly yesterday. And the other two are up and coming. They're also up due for a bath pretty quick here. But Chunk, we gave him a bath, and then I think we made him a bit of a mistake there. Well, I came home last night. I'd taken my younger kids down to visit my Grandma Bonnie, because I'd taken the older boys to visit her the other day. Excuse me. And, yeah, so we'd had the older boys yesterday, the little kids last night, and my dad over there so we could hang out and play. The little kids, we played a board game last night. We played the Princess Bride board game. It was called Storming the Castle. Have fun. Storming the Castle. And that was always a blast. It was too much fun. They really got into it. My son Morgan, he rocked it. He beat us. He beat all of us. I think part of the problem was that I didn't shuffle the deck of cards that go with the game real well. But there's these little, I guess there's the castle at the center, and you have path cards. You have little cards that are different locations along the journey to get to the castle, and you're shuffling this big deck of path cards, and each player goes on one of the four sides of this square tile of the castle, and then you lay out 6 path cards, at random, whatever they end up having to be. Some of them have other things that they require for you to have before you can advance to the next tile. You have to acquire different things that'll help you get there. Some of them have no requirement. Somehow Morgan ended up with like 5 out of his 6 path tiles having no requirement for him to advance. So he had next to nothing stopping him. It was pretty hilarious. I was greatly amused. Yeah, it's pretty fun, man. I don't know Tsuro. I have never played that. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Tsuro? I don't know. Mofo Nature Bear's mentioning a game that one sounds like. So yeah, I'll have to check that out. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and the kids had a good time. But we get home. I get home, rather, after dropping them off back at their mom's. And I'm hanging out with the dogs. I get them fed. And then I'm sitting down. I'm like snuggling with Gerby. You know, I go over and give Vita a belly rub, all that fun stuff that the dogs like. Because they haven't seen a human for several hours. Dawn was out working, doing some things. And I go over to pet Chunk. And he's got like this inflammation around his neck. Like it's all red. And it's not looking good. And very, very deeply pink, too, in a lot of spots. And I was concerned. I didn't understand what was going on. So I took him into the bathroom and showered him a little bit. Showered off his neck just to, because it was oozing a little bit. It wasn't good. I'm not going to get too graphic, but it wasn't happy looking. I was hoping that he didn't have like an injury. And I know that the dogs wrestle with each other often. And it's so funny because this little 36 to 40 pound dog, Gerby, she will wrestle with the 90-pound Chunk and grab him by his collar and wrestle him to the ground, you know, and that's how they play. They do it all the time, and they're great with each other. Dogs got to wrestle to play. I get that. But it's always funny to see a dog half his size take him down, and he lets her half the time. He does try to, you know, wrestle back, but I think he knows. It's like, I got to be careful or I'm going to, like, you know, break her. So he's just a cool dude. He's just very cool in that way. But I was concerned that from their wrestling, she injured his neck from too much of it. You know, I didn't know what was going on. And I don't think it was so much that. It was more so that when we'd given him the bath this morning, he's got really sensitive skin. Like he can get dry patches that get inflamed and things like that, especially this time of year. But he had his collar on, and the collar got wet during the bath. So I think the wet collar still being on his neck all day had caused his neck to get inflamed and oozy like that. Plus the collar was dirty from him being out in the yard plenty often. And so that's something that I figured out, hopefully, and fixed. And so he's recovering from that. He's not like down for the count. He's still his usual self, but we had to, you know, get some puppy ointments or whatever to put on that stuff. And yeah, that just concerned me at first when I found that. I was like, gosh, dang it, you know, just one more thing. But we can handle one more thing, you know, it works. Oh, okay. I was just looking at the chat and I misread it. Fellow to see said something about the O and the G in analog were capitalized, and I was trying to see what you were going for there. I was hoping it was family friendly. It seems to be. I think I get it now. I just misread it. I wouldn't put it past you, Bears. Okay, so I probably was on the right track with that. Yeah, uh-huh. All right. I'm sharper than you might give me credit for. So, Attica. Very good. I'm sorry, I love that joke now. It cracks me up. But, so we had a good time down at Grandma's and had a good time to play. And actually on the car trip there, something else that was pretty interesting happened. So, like I'm still working on it. You know, I'll be honest, as I continue to read this, hang on a second. There we go. This Machiavelli, that's the Prince. It strikes me, you know, more and more. It's pretty in depth. Like there's a lot going on here. And so I want to do it justice. So I'm really trying to do good work to give you guys a good summary, little bit by little bit, and to break it down. And I'm telling you, this is going to be fun when I actually make videos of this. But the opening introductory letter to, let's see, I've said it before, Niccolo Machiavelli was a lower level public servant in Florence, in Italy, and back in the 1500s. Late 1460s, I think, is when he was born. Yeah, 1469 it says, to 1527. So didn't get to be that old. You know, was that 70 or 63? Yeah. No, not even. I don't even think he made it to 60. Huh. Yeah, I think I'd forgotten that. So yeah, guy was in his like 58. Made it to 58. I guess that's pretty good. But yeah, he has this very flowery letter. I'll just give you the first paragraph because I'm pretty sure this is in the public domain by this point, and I can just read it. But I want to give you an idea. Those who strive. Let's take it a step back. Niccolo. I always say it Niccolo. It's Niccolo. I always say his name wrong. Let me smack my mic with the book here. Niccolo Machiavelli to the magnificent Lorenzo di Piero di Medici, who was, I guess, Lorenzo was one of the local princes in that area, or local rulers, one of the Medicis. Those who strive to obtain the good graces of a prince are accustomed to come before him with such things as they hold most precious, or in which they see him take most delight, whence one often sees horses, arms, clothes, or cloth of gold, precious stones, and similar ornaments presented to princes worthy of their greatness. Desiring therefore to present myself to your magnificence with some testimony of my devotion towards you, I have not found among my possessions anything which I hold more dear than, or value so much as, the knowledge of the actions of great men, acquired by long experience in contemporary affairs, and a continual study of antiquity, which, having reflected upon it with great and prolonged diligence, I now send, digested into a little volume, to your magnificence. So he's basically saying here, it's a custom. If you want to obtain good graces of somebody in power, of a prince, then you want to give him whatever you hold most precious, right? You want to share that with him. And he talks about the typical things, horses or weapons, cloth of gold, gemstones, or other things that are, associated with princes, something worthy of their level of stature or awesomeness, whatever you might want to say. So he's straight up telling him, I want to demonstrate my devotion. Excuse me. I want to demonstrate my devotion towards you. And in doing that, I'm going to give you the thing that I find most precious, which is my knowledge of the actions of great men. He'd been involved in interacting with lots of different government officials over his time and seeing how, and studying history as well, how principalities, right? Places where princes are in positions of power, how those types of governments function well, how people hold the power that they have, how they acquire it in the first place. So it's just going through all of that. But this flowery letter, it's really just like it's not really flowery, honestly. It's more, that's not the word I should use. It seems flowery to us because we don't usually communicate like this, but 15th century English, this is what they're going to do. And he's probably originally writing it in Italian, I would expect. But, yeah, the way in which this is reading, it's very straight to the point. He's just telling him exactly what he needs him to know, but very formally. The language is pretty high. My 9-year-old son read that letter to me like beat for beat. Like he didn't mispronounce any, maybe one or two words that he wasn't familiar with, right? Out of the whole thing. But largely he read that in fine form, like the pacing, the cadence of it, I guess I could call it. It was spot on. And I think he understood a lot of what he was reading too. Massively impressed. Like, I know my kids are smart, but when I saw him do that, when I heard him do that, I was just blown away. I'm like, I wasn't expecting you to read that at that level, but yeah, it was just amazing. So yeah, very impressed. Very impressed. Like, my kids blow me away sometimes. They do some pretty cool stuff, and I have to brag on it once in a while. It's my show. I can brag on my kids, right? They do cool stuff. I'm pretty impressed. So that's coming, and I might I've got some other ideas about how I want to come forward with that. It's just getting more solid in my mind. Another thing that I might share with you, which was fun, and then we'll get to what I wanted to talk about more deeply today. Some of you may have seen Twitter recently, but I thought I'd share. I'm pretty sure I can share a 23-second clip. I think that's allowed. But then, YouTube, they might come in, oh, it's copyrighted material. I'm like, it was 23 seconds. It's a clip. I think you can share clips. So I had a tweet about this YouTube channel that Big Bear mentioned on his Instagram. And I thought, this is way cool. And it was called Green Dragon. And he has a video about the story of Robin Hood. And so I shared a little bit here. Let's see if it'll work. Come back. I don't know how well this will work, but we're going to do it anyway. Video worked pretty well yesterday. I was impressed that it did that well. Okay, window capture. Here we go. Maybe, sort of, kind of. Oh, it's just slow. All right, there we go. Yeah, that's what we want. Cool. And fade. Cool. So, welcome to the Big Drum Bear Twitter. I said, at Owen Comedy introduced me to a great YouTube channel that talks about history and literature. Did you know that Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott was a big source for our modern Robin Hood story? I sure didn't. Pretty loony of me. And then, of course, I have to include this clip.
Now it's time for Spot the Loony historical adaptation. And this time it's the thrilling medieval romance Ivanhoe. All you have to do is spot the loony.
Obviously not Ivanhoe at all.
I didn't write that. Sounds more like Dickens. You bastard.
Oh, one of my favorite bits of all time. I of course just snipped it down a little bit shorter, but I have fun with that one. Let's see, where are you? Yeah, I will always keep going. You're absolutely right, Mofo Nature Bear. But yeah, I thought that'd be an appropriate way to introduce people to the channel. There's a link to it on that tweet, so feel free to check that out. But Green Dragon, that's the name of it. And he said he was inspired to start doing a YouTube channel thanks to Owen. Like, he should get into talking about history, So, oh, thanks, Kodiak. I appreciate that. You rock, man. I just saw your tweet. Worth checking out. I thought he's got one video in there, and then at first he only had like 2, maybe 3 subscribers. At the current time, this character right now has. Oh, we gotta see this. Hang on. Now I gotta know. See, I don't know how well this will work because I'm trying to do a lot of stuff, and I hope I don't like overload my internet. If I start going down data-wise, just feel free to tweet me or send me a message on Hangouts or something. If you're not getting any video, just want to pull this up because it's kind of cool. So let's see. Green Dragon, Robin Hood. I don't know how. Let's find it. Robin Hood. That ought to help us. Let's see. Oh, I spelled green like Harold Green. That's why it wasn't coming up right away. Only 4. Oh, there we go. That makes sense. This is amazing. So, like, just a few days ago, Owen posted this on Instagram, maybe a couple of days ago. I don't know how long it was. And now this channel, it had 2 subscribers and maybe 3. It's up to 791 in just a few days. And it's got 1 video in it. That's awesome. Oh, no, I'm sorry. 579. I was looking at views down here on the video. That video now has 791 views. But he's got 579 subscribers. Excuse me, so I said it wrong. That's incredible, man. I'm like super psyched to see bears or people that are connected with the bears get built up in that way. That's a pretty cool deal. So I was stoked for that. Oh, now I'm on my YouTube thing. Hang on, let me fix this. I'm in the wrong spot. I'm on the wrong thing. There we go. The blues of dealing with OBS. But yeah, Kodiak says, hey, would you pray for my son's healing? I certainly will, man. You know what? I'd do it right now. Almighty Father, I know that that Levi's going through some stuff. And I know that his son may not be in the best of health apparently right now, or something's been happening. So would you please put your hands on all of them and restore his son to health? And would you please give them the comfort that they need, knowing that you're in control of everything that's happening. You won't allow things to get beyond what they can bear. And yet you do allow a lot more than we would like you to in this world. I can attest to that. My wife can definitely attest to that. Nevertheless, in balancing this whole free will and your will thing, you do a pretty darn good job most of the time. So thank you for that. Thank you for being who you are and not letting us just be randomly flying around without your awareness and involvement in everything. I pray these things in the name of your Son, Yeshua, our Lord and Savior. Amen. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to break out and just do a prayer right on the moment, because that's important. And we'll be keeping track on that. We'll definitely be keeping track on that. Maddie R. Why do you look familiar? Who is Maddie R? What do I know you as Bearwise? Because you look familiar. Well, you're obviously familiar because you got a wrench. So you've been here before. Which bear are you? Because I've seen you from time to time. I'm just trying to remember. You're not Louie Body Bear on another name. Oh, that's right. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm on Twitter. So one of the best ways that you can is send me a direct message on Twitter. Send me a direct message on Twitter or Instagram. I kind of get them a little slower. I'm not as quick to catch that. But feel free to send me one there. Hard R. Oh, man, that's too funny. That's very, very funny. Okay, so he was found passed out in the field after carrying his bass drum in the band room. He ruptured cartilage in his sternum. Goodness. Oh my goodness, Kodiak. No, that's intense, man. Well, I'm psyched to hear that he's a drummer. I think that's awesome. But I hope and pray that he'll be resting and getting that back to the way it should be soon. What I wanted to talk about today kind of fits in with that. I got up this morning and hopefully where we're heading here will be of a comfort to you as well, and the rest of you guys. I got up this morning and was trying to get the dishwasher loaded and was going to get the coffee ready, maybe some breakfast as well. Both beautiful Lady Bear and I got up a little late. We were pretty tired from previous day. A lot of different stuff been going on. And for her as well. She's got a ton of things on her plate. Excuse me. So I had shared the little Crowder Close section from an episode. It was last week Thursday. Was it last week Thursday? Maybe it was a week ago. No, I think it was last time. It was when he was talking about, I just don't think I can handle one more thing. That business. There was a good friend of their family who lost her husband. And she was saying, I just don't think I can handle one more thing. It's like the furnace broke down. It was just like, oh, it's the last thing I needed right now. It's one more thing. So much stuff going on. Yeah, not razzmatazz. Not that one. Not that one, lipstick. That's not where I'm going. Funny though that is. No, he was talking about, I just don't think I can handle one more thing. Or that's what this friend of the family was talking about. And he was saying, you know what? In no way do I want to be insensitive to what this person's been going through. I mean, I love them. They're friends. We care much about what's going on, of course. But the good news is you can go through one more thing. And, you know, Dawn and I were talking about that a few days ago. And I was sharing that bit with her. Just wanted to encourage, because I know she's had a lot of tough times. She's married to me, so go figure. But, yeah, her mom is, you know, needing more day-to-day help and attention, even being in an assisted living place. So, yeah, we're working through some of those things. We're trying to figure out good solutions, and it's difficult all the time. But this morning we were talking, and you know, she was pretty upset about some of these things, you know, feeling kind of having a difficulty struggling with it. And she had talked about the church group meeting that she'd been to this week. And one of the people in the group had mentioned that they had woken up in the middle of the night, really upset about a lot of things. And they had read or recited to themselves Psalm 23. Psalm 23. And that was an extreme comfort to them. Psalm 23, a big comfort. And they were able to just chill and go back to sleep. And, you know, we started talking about that. And I thought, you know, let's take our time today. Instead of continuing with our normal, you know, like Bible reading like we do in the mornings, let's take a break and go knocking the mic around. Let's go look at Psalm 23 more specifically. And even after that, because I was remembering so much about it. I haven't looked at it for quite a while, but it's a really important one. I mean, I've known it for years, or at least I sort of remembered most of it, but I'd done some deeper studies on that one. Gotta grab this. Found this at Goodwill a while back. It's an old, like, 50s or 60s leather-bound King James Version Bible. And I love a whole bunch of different translations. I think they're neat. I like the KJV just because it's a little easier to study from. It's geared to work in tandem real well with like the Strong's Concordance. And there are two different styles of translation. There's two different mindsets, I should say. There's form and I guess substance in a way. And I may be oversimplifying. That's probably not the terms that are used theologically within that. But a number of versions try to preserve the form of the original texts. You know, what we have as close to the original text as we've got, the original language texts. They try to preserve the form, the way the sentence structures flow, you know, different things like that, and carry that over to English. Some of them try to eliminate that, and they try to make sure that the meaning or the substance of it is communicated more effectively. And there are drawbacks in both. Neither one is fully complete. When you're translating from one language to another, it's just the nature of it. You're not going to be able to get the full essence of things because there's some things that go along with the cultural mindset. And Hebrews think fundamentally different to the way Greco-Roman Westerners like ourselves think. It's just a fundamental difference of the way we perceive stuff. So that's always important when you're studying. Just know that, and it's gonna be fine. Oh, Carolina Reaper jerky, man. Well, that'll get you. That could be. You're gonna need some water after that, Kodiak, or milk. I would say milk. Good night, nurse. I hope that perks up your day. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. But Bibles, I have enjoyed this one, and what helps me enjoy it more is that I know where its drawbacks are. I know that it's not perfect. One of the nice things about the old King James is that it's been around for so long. Most of its errors, most of its issues are well documented by this point. It's not hard to figure out. You can tell when maybe a translation wasn't as complete as it ought to be in a passage. So, Kodiak, Levi, you're cracking me up, dude. Oh man, if that's not a way to get your mind redirected at a time like this, I don't know what is. But it's always good when you can laugh, even when stuff is pretty heavy. I always think that's important. I immediately, when my wife was talking to me about not feeling too great about some things recently, my first instinct was to get her to laugh. So, and after I read this through, I'll tell you a little bit about what was getting me to laugh. Maybe I'll practice through it. See if you can. Maybe I'll have you guys help me develop some of the funny that I was coming up with there. Let's see. Psalm 23. I'm just going to read it here. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. I am modernizing some of the words. I'm not saying restore all the time. And I'll just do that naturally as I'm reading. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now, when I read that normally to myself, I usually say it out loud. Like I have no compunction against saying the name out loud. When you see a capital Lord, that is the Yod He Vav He. That's that, and there's a million different ways. I mean, it may not be a million, but it's a lot of ways that people pronounce it. I tend to say Yehovah. That's the best argument that I've heard is that that's the closest thing you can get to with vowel points and things like that. But again, it's not like it's not a central issue. It's just of interest to me. I like just speaking his name. It's thousands upon thousands of times that his name is used throughout the New Testament, or the Old Testament, I should say, but we don't usually say it. And I understand the historical reasons for the Hebrew people not saying it, though there are more Jewish synagogues that are willing to use the name in their services. That has been a growing thing. It's still small. I think there's small segments of it, but there are more and more they don't substitute Adonai, But the reasons that they went about doing that, I think, were well-intentioned, as I understand history. They didn't want the enemies of Israel to profane and make common the name of God, and so they got the people to stop doing it. So, such a translation, Honky Bear says, when David was on the run hiding out. Such a transition, yes, transition. When David was on the run hiding out, his total dependence on God was so clear, as opposed to when he was king and then having his son wage war against him and after Bathsheba. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, Honky. That's such a great point. He's right on. It's such an incredible psalm to me. There's so much here. It's 6 verses, guys. 6 little verses. And this is probably one of the most well-known passages in the Bible, whether you're of a Christian background or not, whether you're of a Jewish background or not. Many, many, many people know this passage. Many people are familiar with this passage. It's just one of those, like John 3:16 is one of those famous ones that almost everybody knows, even if you've never picked up a Bible in your life, right? You probably heard or seen it somewhere. But the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I even remember watching soap operas, like when I was a kid, right? When I was a little kid in like kindergarten and first grade, I think it's mostly kindergarten, I'd get done, and my day wasn't a full-length day. I'd get done with school, and I would come home, but my folks wouldn't be home, and so they had to deal with the neighbor. Mrs. Hodell was her name. And I was supposed to go over to our next door neighbor's house and stay with her until my folks got home. And I still have some vivid memories of being at Mrs. Hodell's place. And she was all about her soaps in the middle of the day. And one of them in particular I remember was One Life to Live. And on One Life to Live, one of those days, two people were really having a bad time. There's some bad things going on in their life. I can't remember the characters, but they were upset about some things, and so they kneeled down in chapel, I think in a hospital, to pray. And this is what they were reciting. I still see that from when I was like 6 or 7 years old. That memory of watching the soaps along with Mrs. Odell. I can see them reciting Psalm 23 in this little chapel on One Life to Live. I don't know why that little snippet sticks out 30 years later, but it does. So it's an interesting meeting. So as you go through this psalm, it's kind of cool. The Lord is my shepherd. So this viewing, and that's making complete sense for David to write that because he was a shepherd. He took care of sheep and did it well. He defended the sheep. He had a clear understanding of that as like a concept of how God was to him. You know, it's a great analogy from his own life. And it says, I shall not want, because he is a shepherd, makes sure that he provides for his sheep. And if God is the shepherd of him, he has done the same. He trusts that God will provide him because he has been. I'm just reading what you guys had to say there. The racy scenes. I can't say I've always done that in my life. Andrew J. Let's move over here. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. So that's an important point. Sheep, as I'm understanding it, they need to lie down while they're digesting their food. They need not to be up and about because it can cause digestive problems. I don't know all the details behind that, but I'm told that the way sheep function when they're eating and processing their food, they need to lie down in order to do it. It's a good thing for them. Hang on, I'm getting tangled up here. Oh, Steve just released a video. Well, at least I'm just getting the notification for it now. I just got whatever you put out. I just got it now, Steve. So be sure to check out Steve's channel after this. Let's see here. So he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. This is kind of cool. Still waters, not rushing waters, right? Because rushing waters, you can get swept up if you're a sheep. You're not very smart. Oh, you were asked to release it today. Very cool. Very, very cool. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. You get too close to a heavily moving stream and you're a not very smart sheep, then you're going to have a bad time. So still waters, that's safe. That's a good place. You don't have to be nervous. You can drink, right? He restores my soul. This may not necessarily be a reference to sleep, but I wouldn't be surprised. I've often heard people speak about, and from a biblical sense, that their soul is restored within them. In fact, it's a well-known Jewish prayer that's still spoken in synagogues these days. Modi, I'm going to say it wrong. Modi la paneka. I give thanks. It's the beginning of it. So, Modea la Paneka, I give thanks to the one who restores my soul within me. Or I give thanks to you for restoring my soul within me. I'm going to misquote it, but it's still something that they're saying, today in their services. And it's a typical blessing that's done in the mornings when you wake up. That you're showing gratefulness that you're awake again for another day, that your soul has been restored within you. From a sheep's perspective, going to sleep, you know, that could be a frightening experience a little bit. Someone who doesn't understand it, maybe not. I'm extrapolating a little bit, but I'm thinking about the metaphor. You know, this is not doctrinal. This is not, you know, hard theology on this at all. It's just perspective. It's just some musings. But the idea of having your soul restored, like you're continually sustained day after day. And I think that's worthwhile to think about, because we can just read these words, he restores my soul. It's like, okay, great. But when does that have connection with where you are at, right? Ooh, go get a Living Bible, and then you could understand it there. And that's great, but that's somebody else doing it for you. And I guess this kind of is too, in a way. But my hope is that I encourage you to do that, right? And Living Bibles are great. I'm not knocking them. They've got a lot of good stuff in there. So definitely use those too, right? Don't get me wrong. They've got some good perspective. So hopefully this goes along that same way. I'm just giving you my view, my thoughts as I go through this. This is it right here in verse 3, the second half of verse 3. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Two things that are important there. His name's sake. He promised to do it. Right? He's leading you in paths of righteousness. David's saying he leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake, right? Like, because his name is going to be tarnished if he doesn't. He's promised that he's going to do this thing, so he has to keep his word, right? That's why. He's got to keep his word. That's the main reason. So you could screw up. You could make a whole bunch of problems. You could do all kinds of things that you're likely to do. When it's for his name's sake, then his reason for keeping doing it has nothing to do with you. He's got to do it because he said he'd do it. Oh, wow. Honky, I'm just reading that. That's beautiful, Honky. That's amazing, man. Best answers. Cracking me up. Yeah, that's very cool, Honky. That's very, very, very cool. Let's see here. So for his name's sake, that was part I was looking at. But then the paths of righteousness. I've talked about this before, I think, here, but I'm going to mention it again just briefly here. The word paths in Hebrew is the word agol, or it comes from the root word agol, right? And agol is a word that is speaking about motion, but it's referencing cyclical motion, circular motion, right? The idea comes from when you're threshing grain, right? And they use the same word to reference this, but it's connected to this idea. When you're threshing grain, one of the methods that was done to thresh grain was to have cattle and to hitch the cattle up to a threshing wheel. And you have large boards that would come out from it, or spokes, you know, large, I wouldn't even say boards. There goes the dogs, right? There's probably somebody walking past the house, so they're freaking out. Large branches that would stick out from it, poles, whatever it be. And you would hitch the cattle up to that, and then they would walk in a circle and cause the threshing wheel, the grinding wheel, to go round and round. And they would also trod on things themselves and break the grain out of the husk. That's how I understand how that process worked. So they'd be walking around and around in circles, and over time, they'd wear a rut in the ground, right, from their walking. There'd be a path that they'd create. And eventually, their owners wouldn't have to hitch them to the poles. They'd just naturally walk in it. They'd stay in that rut that they'd carved, because it's much easier to stay in it after you've done it years and years and years and practiced it, now that that rut's carved. So that's part of the imagery that's connected with this passage from the culture, right, is that he leads me in cyclical paths of righteousness for his name's sake, right? Over and over again, repeating certain things, doing certain things over and over again. He brings us back to patterns of behavior, right? And I think that's a wonderful thing. It's useful to understand that again and again, we're going to come back to same lessons again, because one time through a lesson is not enough to really get it ingrained in you, right? I find that in my life a lot of times. And there are certain things that I've incorporated in my life that are routines that I come to again and again, that I learn something from each time that are valuable. Something about the character of God, something about my nature, whatever it be, and how I might go about to have my nature, my character be closer to what his is. So it's interesting. All right. Yea, this is another famous section here, verse 4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. A shepherd had apparently a rod, and as I understand, the rod is a disciplinary tool, right? And also a staff. And a staff had a number of different functions, one of which was that he could grab a hold of the sheep by the neck with the crook of the staff and yank them back away from danger, right? So the rod was a corrective tool. It was like, smack the sheep with it, right? If they're acting up, they're doing something they ought not to be doing. But if they're about to get into danger, right, you can, at a distance, yank them back. You don't have to be standing right there. You can, from back here, yank them around their neck and say, get away from that ledge, please. That's a bad idea. So both the rod and the staff, they comfort him, right? His ability to correct and his ability to rescue are very, very important. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Think about that. You're right in the front of people that are ready to kill you, but a meal is set before you. A table is set before you. Like, I'm going to chill. I'm going to... Oh, Tupac, fella deceit. Yeah, well, I'll talk about that eventually because it is interesting. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Tupac done a lot of work on that Machiavelli. Let's see here. Trying to remember where I was at here. Think about having a meal set before you when you've got enemies coming. You're sitting down, you're chilling when you're eating, right? You're not out there to be on the defensive, be ready to go for battle or anything like that. But he's saying in front of your enemies, he's preparing a table, right? Except for David, at least. You anoint my head with oil. And that was something done to show that favor was had upon a person, or that they were chosen for some particular thing, the oil anointment. That was done for kings. In fact, when David, when Samuel, the prophet, came to the house of Jesse, David's dad, to choose the king, or to declare who God had decided was king, he went through all of Jesse's sons. And it was like, no, it's not this guy. Even though they were big, strong, strapping young guys, they looked like, oh, they're probably king material, right? And all of them, Samuel was like, is it this one, God? And said, nope, not that guy. Finally, this little squirt, David, who's been the shepherd boy out there taking care of sheep, and he's pretty formidable, even though the packaging doesn't look like it at that point. He's pretty young. That's the one. That's the kid, right? That's meant to be king. And Samuel anoints his head with oil, pours special oil, I'm assuming olive, over his head in this ceremony to say, favor is had upon you. You have been chosen, right? So that's what that anointing your head with oil business is there. And then my cup runs over, right? Think of having like a goblet or something and a drink that you really enjoy. And then it's poured where it's overflowing. You're not even worried about running out. You are definitely provided for. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Right? I think that's pretty intense. Like that doesn't need a whole lot of explanation. Goodness, well, maybe a little bit. Goodness is an interesting one because what we think of as good is not necessarily what he would think of as good, at least in my experience, right? So this is particularly useful to me to remember, because there's a passage later in Romans, in the book of Romans, that said, for all things work together for good to them that are the called, to them that are loved by God and are the called according to his purpose. So it doesn't say that all things are good. It says all things work together for good. But here in this passage, it said goodness and mercy. Surely goodness and mercy. Mercy, often called like not getting what you deserve, right? Goodness, blessing, positive stuff, largely, I would imagine. And again, I have to look up what the word is. I'm assuming it's tov, right? Tov is often the word for good. And so I think completeness is likely to be the case. I'd have to look it up to be, you know what? I'm going to look it up right now. I have a concordance right here handy. I pull up Psalm 23 in the concordance version. It takes all of a few seconds. 23, 6. And surely goodness. And it is tov. Yeah, that's the root word there, is tov. Tov is a word that doesn't just mean good, though it's often translated as good or goodness. The word is to be complete, right? To function is the way you were designed to function. That's what's going on there. So surely completeness, right? Being complete, right? Or that which should happen for me, that what allows me to function will follow me, right? My ability to function as I was meant to. And mercy, right? That's another word. Mercy. Chesed, right? And that's a term of some of the definition that's given here is the typical concordant stuff, kindness, or by implication, piety, occasionally reproof, in a sense that it's mercy, like what it says there, or you've done something that you ought not to do, right? And you're not going to be snuffed out for it. That's often the way I've heard that term described. And I have another resource, which is a great one. It's just not down here. No, it is down here. I won't get in it right now. I'll wait on that. But that's a word I'm going to look up because I have some suspicions about that word. But as I understand mercy in that particular one, how it's often been shown to me that it's something that speaks to God, not giving you what you've earned, right? Not giving you the consequences of your actions that you've earned. I had an experience like that just the other night when I had the older boys, and I think I mentioned that to you. Maybe I didn't. I don't recall. I think yesterday I was mostly showing you the interview with Liberty Snake, so I don't think I got to this, but I was supposed to get gas when I was on my way down to visit my grandmother and my dad down there in Emden. And I didn't get gas after I picked up my boys. I didn't stop. I went like 35 odd miles without getting gas, and it had already dinged at me and said that I was at the bottom of my tank. So I got to grandma's, and I still hadn't gotten gas. And I realized that as we were getting ready to leave. It's like, oh, shoot, I got to get gas. So before we could go back to their mom's, I had to get gas. And I had to think deeply because I'm like, it's below the red line already. I don't know how much I've got left. So I had to think, where was the closest gas station? And the closest one was actually not the direction we were trying to go. So I figured, okay, I got to go down there, get it, and come back. And it was pretty close to straight shot. Once I got out of that little town, I got onto the state highway that ran through that area going west. And it was about 6 miles from there. So it was also a level straight shot. Best choice I had, because if I started running out and I needed to coast some, then if it got to that point, I'd rather be on that than having to go uphill. And the other gas station went through some terrain that was going uphill, so I'd rather not do that. So here's what I did. I went and I kept the RPMs like below 1,500 as much as it was humanly possible, going 55 on this road. And I just kept it going nice and straight, nice and even the whole time. I got about a half mile away from the gas station, and I was out of gas. But thankfully, thankfully, I still had enough momentum, right? And I could see the station. We were almost there. So I just popped it into neutral, just let it continue to go and roll. And there are two entrances to the gas station in this little town where I was going to stop. The first one, I would have had to turn left and then right again to get to the pump. And that would have been counterproductive. Plus, there was another car waiting to turn out on the road. And I thought, no, that's like I'm going to lose momentum before I get there. Forget that. So I went for the second entrance. I went a little bit farther down, and I used my momentum to slingshot around and come. And I got lined up. I had like one chance, right? I got lined up perfectly, distance-wise, away from the pumps, and went all the way down. There were no other cars in the way, thank God. Made it to the last pump, and I still had momentum left, so I actually had to brake by the time I got there. It wasn't like that bad, but I had a decent amount of momentum carrying me in there, and I was still going around about 15 miles an hour or so at that point, so it wasn't half bad. But we made it, and I got filled up, and I was kicking myself for that one. I was like, wow, I deserved to have to push that car, or I deserved to have to walk. One of those two. I deserved that. I earned it, because I should have made sure that I stopped and got gas before, right? But I didn't receive what I earned that day. I was given exactly what I needed, and then just a little bit more. So, I mean, if it had been an extra 50 feet or so, maybe an extra 100 feet, I probably could have made it. So there was margin, very little margin, but I was given exactly what I need. I had that much left. That was what it was. You might chalk that up to coincidence. You might chalk it up to, well, you were just lucky. And is that entirely possible? Sure. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's probable. I don't have all the pieces of data to compute, to determine probability there. I'll be honest about that. There's no way I could possibly know. I do choose to believe that it was not happenstance. I choose to believe that it was much more likely to be intervention there on my part, not getting what I earned, right? And that intervention, not necessarily in the moment. That intervention could have been plenty before, right? It could have been set up over time, like, because if he's outside of time, if the creator's outside of time and everything going on there, he could see, yeah, he's going to get to this spot. He's going to be out of gas. So I'm going to interfere in some way, or I'm going to make sure that different things happen where he only drives this much. And at this point in time, he's still going to have this much left, and it's going to work out where he's going to see, yeah, that you should have had to walk there. The more likely scenario is that it would have been appropriate that you had to walk and learn your lesson. But I'm gonna give you one here, because it's not just affecting you; it's your kids too, and that's no fun for them, you know. So in this case, you're gonna get some mercy here. So surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This psalm began with the Lord, and it ends with the Lord forever, right? I find that conspicuous. Yeah, Honky Bear, I saw your song, by the way, and I loved it. I liked it. I was going to comment. I was going to do something, but I didn't get to it yesterday. I dug it, man. I really dig it. I liked that you did it in the dark, too. I thought that was cool. That was fun, man. I dig it. You go listen to Honky Bear's tunes, because he's a great singer, great guitar player. I really like his voice. It's so honest. It's so down to earth. And he's pretty darn talented. Yeah. We need a Honky Bear channeling. I'd do it, but I think my computer's going to putz around or something if I do. Let's see here. Can I do it? Oh, I saw the video. The video was there. It was just dark. It was really dark. Like the lights were off or something. There we go. Honky Bear. Come on. There we go. Get some subscribers for the honky. Dream away. That's what's up. We're going to give you a link here. If I can get it. I'm almost there. Share. There we go. Share that. Somebody already beat me to it, I guarantee it, because I'm so slow. Oh. maybe we're going to listen to it. Are you cool with this, Honky? If you're not, I won't do it. Yeah, you guys beat me.
Laying here just thinking about the seasons and the stars. How change can be so painful.
Cool.
And the light can seem so far. How will
sorry, man.
Whisper
Gonna get a little
can just
breakdown.
echo, and a scream just drives you up, and the noise of day is so blurry, and the silent night just comes. Wish I could dream it all away. Wish I could just wake up. It's not for me to say. It's my destiny to drink this cup. Isn't the same for some, yet others know this hell. Burden borne on shoulders that none can carry well. Oh, time is of the essence, so that's what they say. But time is a deceiver, and it mocks you on your way. Wish I could dream it all away. Wish I could just wake up. It's not for me to say. It's my destiny, drink this cup. It's my destiny to drink it up.
I like it, man. I like it. I didn't grab that thing in time. That would have been fun. My boom, or what's it called? My thunder tube. No, good tune, man. Good stuff from Honky Bear. Definitely go give him a subscribe because he's awesome. He's awesome. He's got a great sound. Glad I could share that. Yeah, the drinking of the cup, lyric in there. I really liked that because, yeah, absolutely, man. Love you too, brother. The drinking of the cup lyric kind of got me thinking of like the Last Supper kind of stuff, but it also got me thinking about this Psalm 23 a little bit. When I was thinking about that today, I was like, there's something in my mind here that's like feeling some familiarity with that, or some connection between those things. You got this cup that runs over, so it is your destiny to drink from that, man, for sure. Because goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. Period. And same to you, Kodiak. Hoping and praying that your boy is doing okay. But comfort yourself. Comfort one another with these words, right? Psalm 23, one of the oldest, I shouldn't say, it's not the word I'm looking for. It's one of the most well-known passages. And it is giving comfort to numerous people, whether you take it literally, whether you don't, that it was the actual words of King David, which historically it most likely was, but whether or not you believe what David had to say about it. be willing to entertain the possibility. I choose to believe that big man's up there and he's in control. Even when crazy stuff is permitted to happen, you ask yourself, like, if you're in control, why would you let that happen? But it's not just his will that's in the picture there. We have wills as well. And he's a gentleman. He doesn't always override our will when we're his. He will override people's wills. That's certainly been seen. But he's also giving in to people's wills. He will give people their heart's desire, whichever direction it goes. He's going to let you have it. I'm right there with you, brother. I'm the same way, Steve. I don't feel like I cannot make that choice either. There's too much that's been put in front of me in this life for me not to have that belief. And so for me, it's almost like I am compelled because it's too reasonable, too logical to believe. I'm saying that at the same time saying that, could I be wrong? Certainly. That's intellectual honesty. But I don't think it's likely. I don't think I'm wrong. I just admit the possibility that sure I could be because I don't know everything. But I'm very, very, very thoroughly convinced that someone does. And in the midst of all the things that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life, try that on for size. See how much your life is. Try it. You might like it, right? There's this little story that my wife and I went through just recently of a Syrian military commander named Naaman. Naaman the Syrian. And Naaman was afflicted with leprosy. Now, whether or not that's Hansen's disease as we know about today, I don't know. But whatever he had, it was a skin condition, because they were a lot of different skin conditions were called leprosy. Any kind of afflictions, maybe even psoriasis or whatever else the case may be. A lot of things were sort of under that umbrella of leprosy in biblical terms when you see that written. So whatever he had, it was pretty serious. It was debilitating to some degree, yet he was still able to function and do his gig. But there was word that there was this prophet in Israel that might be able to do something about it. So now I'm having trouble remembering whether it was Elijah or Elisha. I get a mix sometimes. And I was just reading it. I can't remember. I want to say it was Elisha, excuse me. Elisha, the prophet, the one that came after Elijah. So he goes to see him. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Naaman goes to see him, and then one of Elisha's servants, I think it was Shah, yeah. One of Elisha's servants meets him at the door and says, he says, you don't even need to come in and see him. He says, just go to the Jordan River and dip in it 7 times. Go down and wash in the river 7 times. And he's like, wait a minute, what? Are you serious? Go wash in a river 7 times? This is what I came for? The guy's not even going to see me? I'm sure there's something he could be like doing, some sort of mystical, whatever it is he's got, but he's not even going to see me. He just says, go wash in a river. This is like snake oil salesman stuff here, man. Forget this. This is crap. I'm not going to buy that. And then Naaman's servant says, essentially, try it. You might like it. I mean, why not? If he'd asked you to do some other intense thing, way more difficult, wouldn't you have done that? I mean, you do want to do whatever you can, right? You came all this way. Aren't you gonna at least give it a try? It's pretty easy. Go step into a river. It's like, why not? Why this river? There's plenty of other good rivers better than the Jordan. It's a mess, Why wait in that? Makes no sense. Try it. You might like it. Give it a go, man. So I put that to you. If you're wrong, oh well. If it isn't the truth, what have you suffered, right? You've given into that for a little while. Could there be negative consequences, I guess, for you to accept something that's false? Yeah, I think that's true. I don't want to oversimplify it too much here. Yeah, there's definitely, I think, a reason to not accept things that aren't true. Truth is, like, massively important. But I'd say give it a go. Have the mindset to say, it could be. It's quite possible that this is the case. And it's probably going to be a positive impact on my life because it's been a positive impact on a whole bunch of other people's lives, right? Look at the impact on people's lives. If that's not an argument to give it a look, right? And I'm not even trying to proselytize here. That's not my point. I'm just saying I see a lot of people that have really rough, insane times. And if they don't have something to ground them to go through it, it's going to be more maddening, right? Give it a look. If Psalm 23 can be a comfort to you, great. That's what I hope you got out of today. It's definitely been a comfort to me and definitely to my wife, especially today, and plenty of other people that I know and don't know. I hope it's a little more vivid to you. I hope it's a little more practical in your life. That's what I hope you got out of it. Yeah, Honky, I think I agree with you there, like a lot. The pattern of thinking that you engage in regularly is what is going to come out of you. An old pastor used to tell me that garbage in, garbage out. It's a simple rule about computer science, the way things work there. Whatever garbage you put into it, that's what garbage you're going to get out of it. If you do that with yourself, same deal. No, we're not computers, but we function according to specific guided rules and programming. And we can work beyond that, but it does carry a lot of sway inside of us. Don't underestimate it. You put a lot of crud in you, you're going to get a lot of crud behavior and step back out. I'd say that's a worthwhile thing from my looking over it. Lofty, high, pleasant thoughts. There's one other little thing I'll tag onto this. A letter that was written to a group of Christians in the first century that were in a little area called Philippi. Paul was writing to them to encourage them because they were having some rough times. Philippians were not always having a good day. But he wanted to say to them, verse 8, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Whatever is true and honest, whatever is just and pure, whatever things are lovely and of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. So that's this guy's suggestion when they're having really horrendous times. Direct your thoughts on stuff that's worth directing it on, man. Bears, I love you. And I hope you go out into your day encouraged. And until we meet again, engage your mind, engage your body, engage your heart. Seek to serve the ultimate purpose. I'm so glad I could share these mornings with you. I always look forward to it. Guys, I will see you later. Peace, Bears. I always forget to turn it to fade the scene. What a goof. You know, even when we make mistakes and we we don't manage our show properly, he gives us mercy. Give me mercy too. And by the way, while you're at it, don't forget to support some bears. Check the description out and you'll see you can support Kodiak, subscribe to his Patreon, send PayPal, all that kind of fun stuff because he's a great bear and he makes great clip videos and I'm very grateful to him. Go subscribe to Honky Bear if you haven't already. He's a great dude on YouTube and he writes some really good songs and I'm glad to know him as a brother. He's a great man. While you're at it, go check out Tom Tuff's Freedom Tuff stuff. It's good. Freedom Tuff stuff. It's the way to go. And last but not least, well, it's not last. Handsome mugs and ugly mugs. I don't have the handsome mug handy, but I do have an ugly mug handy. So when you think of Jews huddling in an attic, writing dirty jokes in the hidden pages of their diaries, think of this guy hoarding his shekels. And think of a handsome bear in a field who likes his handlebar mustache or his snagly mustache, whatever you want to call that thing. At the same time, don't forget, love Chunker, you're a commie. On sale again at bonfire.com. He's a good dog. Keep your prayers for Chunk, too. He's got that ouchy neck. We gotta get that fixed. Buy some shirts. Fix Chunk's neck. I love you guys. Peace for real this time.